Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Vikas, Prince, Avinash, always a pleasure speaking to all of you. In so many years of my association with all of you, I've learned a lot. It makes me try to be a good analyst by each passing day, right? I've spoken to Prince, Vikas, Avinash on several occasions, on several technology platforms and solutions, right? So I am personally looking forward to today's conversation. I'm sure there's a lot to add from all of you. So, Avinash, Vikas, Prince, I'll personally like to thank each one of you and looking forward to a stellar conversation. We have around 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Let's make the most of it, right? So, probably I'll begin today's discussion with Prince. So, Prince, first of all, like I mentioned, during my presentation, when we speak about, you know, digital transformation, digital transformation is, as we know, is a process, and every organization, regardless of which industry it caters to and which segment it belongs to, partakes in some form or the other digital transformation, right? It could be to do with business processes. It could be to do with stakeholders. It could be to do with operations, supply chain, so on and so forth. But somewhere, if you see all of this in some form or the other, kind of pivots to cost optimization. You know, the entire journey of digitization of organizations. Yes, when we talk about business efficiency, operational efficiency, so on and so forth, somewhere you are trying to do more with less. You know, so in the current scheme of things, how you have seen digital transformation gravitating, how do you compass cost optimization when we speak about digital transformation? Over to you, Chris.
It's a very, very thought-provoking subject. When you look at the vantage points that where we are at right now, there is no option but to get into the bandwagon of digital transformation.
Right.
But again, the real driver behind that, why are you getting into it? What are you trying to achieve? What is the outcome you are trying to arrive at? Many a times that is where there's a lot of thought that needs to go in. Sometimes the success of the initiative depends on the amount of thought you put into that phase, to be honest. From what I've seen, you can get into it because technology is available, tools are available, some sort of innovation is available, somebody else is doing it, you can do it. The other way of doing it is actually really business case driven. And business case usually needs you to justify many aspects. And in that, one of the aspects is, of course, the cost part. But if it's generating value, then the cost also is not about looking at, my unit cost for doing certain things up to now was X amount of dollars. And now if I do this, my unit cost for doing that activity comes down by X percentage. That's great. That's a great business case to put in. And that can itself, that can be a justification for all these initiatives. And all of them, we try to put through this lens. So now you have kind of in this forum, you have forced us to use only that cost lens. So I'm going to try and stick to that angle. The other term that you used, do more with less. And we hear it too many times, and I don't think we hear enough, but we hear it everywhere as well. And the contradiction there is, the moment we try to achieve that, trust me, we've actually got a winner. We've achieved something which is really positive. If you look at all the big disruptive industries that has become massive successes, it's only because they have done something which was already going on, but they have decided or they've come up with a model that is generating more value for less. That's the disruption. Those are the disruptive winners. Now, we can all be encouraged by that, inspired by that, but in our own little microcosm of the world or the corporate world that we are in, our businesses, we try to bring a reflection of that thinking, that philosophy in the digital transformation initiatives that we try to bring in. So at the end of the day, anything that we do has got to have a tangible benefit back. So those are the ones that attract investment. Those are the ones that get sponsors' eyes, promoters' eyes. Those are the ones that actually get traction. And those are the ones that actually get you to move forward as well with your digital agenda. So
Right.
the as the conversation progresses, I'm sure there'll be more thoughts coming through. But I'll
Right.
pass the mic back to you.
Yeah, yeah. Prince, no, I thank you for the lead because I think it helps me, put forward certain data because we, being an analyst firm, we like to strive towards a conversation which is backed by data. So to all our friends who are listening to us, we believe in having a 360-degree approach to our panels, where I get a chance to speak to you, people like you who are CIOs, who are IT leaders, and for all our friends who are listening to you, who are IT decision makers in their own right. It's very important for us to get their inputs as well. So one of the key questions that we had asked to all our friends who have joined in is, what are some of the key challenges that they face from from not only IT perspective, but from a business landscape perspective. So I'll just call out some of the key data points. So one was around integration complexities. The fact that there's a lot of business which is on-premise and cloud, be very importantly, the more you speak about it, I think it just helps, is upskilling IT teams. You know, Third, I mean, no discussion goes without talking about security. So evolving security threats. But fourth, and a discussion that I would probably like to espouse a lot upon today is IT cost optimization. So, but when we ask our friends further to this, a very interesting thing comes out. What they seem to suggest is when we speak about IT cost optimization, we are not necessarily talking about cost cutting. There is that, very, very uh, fine line, but clear differentiator between cost cutting and cost optimization. So I just probably thought I'll probably request Vikas or Avinash to bring in their, valuable insights to this. Probably, Vikas, would you like to take it up, or and then probably request Avinash to
That's okay.
go ahead.
Okay, Avinash, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So interesting and a very nice perspective, Aplak. Primarily, when everybody says cost optimization, as you rightly pointed out, everybody looks at cost saving and cost cutting. But it's very true today. Cost optimization means how do I optimize my infrastructure? How do I optimize my network? How do I optimize my resources? And it's very relevant. If I would like to say, people are trying to put in a round peg in a square hole today. By that, what I mean, especially in IT, we're trying to use our existing earlier erstwhile infrastructure to adapt to the new norm or the new digital integrated workspace. So primarily, there are a lot of challenges until you really re-look holistically at the entire aspect because things have moved ahead. So if you want to really cost optimize, first challenge when you are looking at about a digital transformation is what is your digital dexterity. The digital dexterity is critical to build a resilient, agile workforce that can cope with any future disruption or support any rapid changes. Today, which we are facing geopolitical, environmental, and the stuff. So, what is the digital dexterity you have brought in into your environment, and how you are going to leverage that? So, obviously, all those challenges in terms of secure application, access base, blah blah blah, has to be there. But the idea is how do I provide a resilient, a reusable, restructurable, and a very simple interface based on the user profile. Finally, the work has to get done in that, and the entire digital transformation focuses that it reaches each of those parts. So maybe going ahead, I'll touch on those, but that's my viewpoint as a.
No, Avinash, I value what you just said. And if I'll take a cue from that, I'll probably get Vikas in the conversation. Like I said, when we spoke about digital transformation, one key element of the way Think Till bucketizes, there are several elements of digital transformation. One is about stakeholders, one is about business processes and business strategies. So when we talk about stakeholders, at least the last 1 to 2 years, we saw a lot of shift and focus towards employee productivity, employee satisfaction, purely because the way we work really transformed the last 2 years, right? We've seen work in a pre-pandemic space. We saw it during the pandemic, and we now see it in a post-pandemic world. And I think it's fairly right to say that hybrid work conceptually is here to stay. yes, I know there are a lot of offices are bringing back their, staff back to their offices, but still a lot of companies are, are very clear that going forward, hybrid is the de facto standard. Do you think the way you look at hybrid work that can lead to certain cost advantages apart from all the other benefits of employee productivity and all anytime anywhere work, which are the key tenets of hybrid work? Do you feel cost is something which is not spoken too much about? I mean, apart from just the real estate aspect, probably I would like to take your views, Vikas, on this.
Thanks, Look, this is really a pertinent point at this hour. And if you look at past 3 4 years, 3 years now to be precise, and going forward, I mean, we are actually in an unprecedented times today. I don't know whether we can really call it chaotic, disruptive, transformatory, or revolutionary, evolutionary, and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, anything that we are doing now is far, far more complex, and the delta of the change and the things that we are doing is far more. The pace of doing things is far, far more as compared to the time that is elapsing. So when we say that, we mean the pace is very fast. And if you look at from the productivity and cost both, so touching on the cost, anything that we hire, anything that we adopt, anything that we deploy has a cost, whether it is
Right.
machine, man, or any kind of a resource. Now, if we talk about a resource, people traveling to the office work also is a resource and a time consumption. And if you look at in a place like a metro in Mumbai or a Delhi, the time frame, the amount of time that any employee spends on a road is about 30% of the work hour. So which is precisely 3 hours of a 9 hour work schedule. Now, if you extrapolate this whole thing over a 15-year to 20-year time frame, that amounts to a productivity loss of more than 6 years, which is the time lost.
Huge.
Now, I'm just trying to magnify the amount of money that we spend when we talk about any kind of cost that gets deployed. This is a cost, this is a deterrent, this is a burden on each resource that is traveling to the office for a work. So when you said that this is going to stay, for sure, this is a parallel model, and I can vouch for companies in the US which still have offices world over, have not opened yet full-fledged. And there are companies who continue to work like this forever in life. So, and it gives a lot of flexibility if you look at from the employee perspective, from the stakeholders perspective again. A lot of costs
Right.
can get erased from the bottom line that you really are planning to do by deploying resources in established offices. You can have a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, wherever there is a tool, the tool that can reach people, and you find a good mindset, attitude of people. I think that is what is going to drive the productivity and reduce the cost. If you look at cost is not going to get reduced automatically. It will definitely be the choice of deployments that we do in the IT space. And why IT space only? Even advertising is a cost, resource hiring is a cost. So it is just like saying the way you begin to treat any one of these costs like a deferred cost, will it get adopted by the business, and it will definitely continue to be a part of the bottom line, then merely considered as a cost from only one direction, which is IT.
Because I love the way you balance your, thoughts. Because I love the cue when you spoke about, like for instance, advertising has its own cost. So, when we talk about cost optimization, it has very several functions, several
Absolutely.
departments to it, and IT is one of the key elements to that, but not the only one, like you said.
Absolutely.
And the advantage, I mean, you gave some great example. I know you kind of did the exponential cost of it to magnify the benefits of what hybrid work sets up. Uh, Thank you so much. I'll probably get Prince and Avinash to the conversation. Uh, Prince, as all of you have mentioned, and I'll go back to my statement of doing more with less. You know, uh, there have been in my understanding of, tracking this market, there are certain key elements which have helped us gravitate to where we are today, be it hybrid cloud, be it virtualization, be it, collaboration technologies, analytics, so on and so forth. But in your view, for instance, I'll give you one more example of, for instance, VDI or desktop as a service, which actually helped us enable, work from anywhere, very secure and optimized manner. Are there some, technologies which have helped you as an organization embark on this journey? And also, while very tough, how do I ensure not just future proofing your IT costs? Because I think that is a really uphill task, but at least ensuring that you at least get ROI for a certain period of time. You can never future proof it, because, for instance, whenever you invest on a particular technology, there is a certain cost element to it. How do I make sure that at least it runs for a certain period of time and ensures scalability to justify your cost, it justifies the cost to your senior leadership? What is your view to this?
Right. So the thing is, when you started the point, you touched on 2 or 3 technology elements. In fact, those are exactly the ones that I would say are the ones that I'm leveraging to move and manage in this time frame, or in the situation that we are in. So when the whole hybrid move started, VDI was obviously a lifesaver, because
Right.
there was some way we needed to ensure that remote connections is going to be reliable, stable, performs well, and secure. And those solutions that came through, without naming any vendor, that was actually one of the huge benefits or tools that really helped us to get to the next level. But the 3 main technologies that are going to be remaining and sustaining under maybe larger umbrellas is cloud, is analytics, and collaboration. And you actually named these 3 in the beginning itself. To me, everything else falls under it. I mean, to collaborate also now is falling under cloud to some extent. But to me, the footprint that I have on my data centers, the planning that I used to do for my infrastructure, and the TRs and the TCP planning, and that whole footprint has now taken a big change in the way we plan now. So our outlook for 3-5 years does not include more data centers that we own. It's going to have edge data centers in our factories, but not larger data centers. So we are moving services where this can be accessed by all our employees, and there's got to be some thought around it. So while we say that this is not going to be something that is necessarily cost positive directly, but the cash flow is better. It needs to generate the cash flow. It needs to be managed, and it can go out of control. But this is where the other aspect of investment comes in, where your cloud management, your FinOps, those parts take a little bit more priority now, because that's where you need to make sure that you are utilizing and you're paying for what you're committed, and the overall return on that is actually justified. That is one part. The second part is, again, is on analytics. Again, for analytics, we're leveraging the cloud a lot, because again, this data needs to be available to our group employees, management, who are pan-India, who are out of the country. Now, how do we actually deliver this to them? Now, for them to make decisions, previously a certain piece of information that could even impact production planning for the next day, it took time to generate and come up and provide that. But right now, we are working, and I think this is an area where we are continuously improving, and I believe this will be impacted even more with AI and conversation. This can even improve even better. But this is an area where we have thoroughly seen that management collaboration is happening on a platform which is a little bit more common, shared, visibility is available, data points are available, so you don't have to really fight with each other, but you're all saying the same thing, and you can form decisions and chart your course based on that. The third one is, of course, collaboration. Now, even today, there was a need for meeting in one of our other facilities. And then you guys, it's going to take us 30 minutes to drive and 30 minutes to drive back. Why don't we just do it on Teams? Very quick sidestepping, and these are not even technical folks. These are operational folks.
Right.
These are functional folks. When they start talking this language, it actually means that this is now a given. It's become so ingrained in a very short amount of time that people are leveraging all of this for a different sort of benefit. So the productivity and the impact on that is very, very visible. So investments into this, justifying this is far more simpler. And I just see the proliferation of this to be a little bit more. The only place where we need to be careful is we have an outflow. We just need to make sure that it is managed well. Letting it to be left to its own devices is a sure sign for disaster, because you will be surprised. And cloud vendors are not ever going to be generous. Bill is a bill, you got to pay it. And if it's not paid, you're disconnected, etc. So you just need to be able to manage that so that you're able to bring it into your whole gamut of things which delivers IT services. So that's where a little bit of focus has gone, and you need to build skills around that. Plus, the other part is on the securing of the whole thing, because security is also another area where we need to not only provide assurance to us, but assurance to our customers on how we are handling their data, and some of the data that because we deal with healthcare, maybe aerospace, defense, and the data is so sensitive that you just can't afford to have any mistakes made. So investments were there, but then those investments also have a business case, because to provide the service back, you build it into your quote, into your costs, and that's an area where we need to mature as well. So,
Prince, you've actually covered a lot of ground, because you kind of gave us brief downloads in terms of each and every element that helped you in your journey towards a hybrid cloud workspace model initiative from a tech stack perspective. I'll before I get Avinash and Vikas talking into this, I'll again share some data points here, which surprisingly pretty much echo what you just said. So the second question that we'd asked our friends was, what are some of the key technologies or solutions which they have embraced to minimize, business operational cost. Clearly, no surprises here. Collaborative technologies comes up very high on recall. Cloud technologies comes literally on tops. You have analytics as an emerging area, but one area which very interestingly comes very high is around intelligent devices. Which is where you're bundling a lot of solutions into the devices that you use, because what we've come to see also is the device is your new office in a hybrid work setup, like you've mentioned. Uh, while yes, there's a lot of backend infrastructure to support all of this, but on the face of it, what we're doing right now, you need a good device and you need a good connection, right, to make sure work is always on. But there's a lot of periphery around that, which is why we start correlating. And some of the elements of what you just mentioned, Prince, right? About centralized management of devices. You talk about security, talk about analytics. All of this kind of gets bundled into your device strategy. Hence, we calling it a intelligent device strategy. Vikas and Avinash, probably again, back to both of you. How important do you think, apart from what just Prince mentioned, talking about collaboration, cloud analytics, the importance of seeing device not as an end product but a bundled solution which is driven by intelligence? What is your view to that?
So let me take it ahead first.
Sure.
Primarily, what Prince said, I resonate with him, and it's pretty true today. Cloud, digital experience platforms, video, artificial intelligence, insight engines, and data analytics are really core. And Gartner calls them as new work nucleus. So it's pretty important how do we handle those and tackle those. And in the whole context, I mean, there are multiple parameters in terms of your application architecture, in your infrastructure architecture, and what is your network or the cloud architecture. So they play an important role. What is the view the device gets at the end? As you rightly said, the device is dependent on all this functioning at the background, and it's just the front end which provides that. To dig deeper, when we are investing into today's technologies to do this, we just need to look at the part where how do I leverage these devices. So for example, what is the data driven insight I'm getting it from whatever investments I've made. So for example, if you're putting in a device which is on a cloud PC, what are the kind of errors, or what is the waste part you're getting it, what is the user interface. I mean, n number of stuff can be derived from an AI engine from this device outputs, which I'll call AI ops. And you can really leverage that, get business insights, get end user experience optimization and stuff which will lead to a better digital experience. So those are the pretty critical as of now when you need to look at optimizing the cost. One of the aspects which we didn't touch upon here is also when you're looking at a device, today it's pretty important what is the sustainability aspect we are putting into it. So are our solutions sustainable? Because it's like carbon footprints are involved. We need to look at how we can optimize the entire structure. So that is one of the pretty important aspect when you're looking at your digital experience and the device interface. And the third part is a pretty collaboration reimagination, which anyway Prince addressed. So I think these are the 4 5 things we need to really look at in optimizing cost today.
No, Avinash, I love this your take on how important ESG really is coming out as an area when we talk about environment, sustainability, and governance. I mean, very rightly said. I mean, uh, while all of digitization is helping us in many ways, it has it also has a payload for us to take care of. I think very nicely put. Because I bring you into the conversation because I love the way you balance it out when I asked you some of the advantages that hybrid cloud has, and you gave a beautiful macroeconomic view of how you look at things. But like in every situation, right? Even workspace modernization has its own share of challenges, right? In your view, because as a CIO, you have many people's interest to be catered to. At the same time, as a technology leader, you know what is feasible and what is not, right? In the scheme of workspace modernization, in the scheme of enabling work, say, anytime, anywhere, what are some of the real-time challenges, maybe the top two, three? And because we have so many listeners joining in, some of the ways to manage and mitigate that, if not in totality, or at least in some parts. Vikas, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Apalak. Quite a bit said by Avinash and Prince, and I would really, really be in line with what they have put in forward. To me, to my organization, I think only two things were important. One basically was I would really put it like this: discrete association and centralized management. Now, when we said that, which means very clearly is you put the device, you put the application, you put the software, you put anything that they want in the hands of the people. So discrete association. You just can't control it. They need it, you got to give it. Be it collaboration, be it security, be it anything. The location where they want to be. And if you look at from the application, software, device, office, everything has to be given to them. So discrete association, which is like given. Now people want to stay away from office, so be it, you got to give it to them. The second part is, and which is most important to from an organization perspective and from a stakeholder perspective, is how do you manage these devices which are given discreetly to people who are sitting in office, outside office, in the shop floor, in the field, who are moving around. So that was the centralized management piece. Now, if you look at the whole of this, is driven by how data can be collected, how could people be supervised, how could applications be monitored, how could devices be ensured for their security from an overall perspective, and ensure that everything is moving on the ground as a routine, the way it got to be moving without disruptions anywhere. If we look at whole of this is governed by primarily three, four things. One is essentially the data which is captured
Right.
from a supervision perspective. Now, if you look at our kind of a place is more of a gas pipelines, which is and probably countries if it is larger ones, and those are governed by various sensitive informations, various
Mm.
sensitive parameters which govern them. For instance, there could be a fire at a specific place. A gas pipeline buried could really be facing a nightmare, but then it has to be governed. There are seismic things, there are weather predictions. Sometimes the pipeline passes through the sea, sometimes over a rough terrain, sometimes it passes through a landslide prone zone. All of this has to be monitored in the runtime, and there probably is no failover mechanism. I mean, there is no time really to respond when it comes to calamities like this impacting a gas pipeline, which has to be sectionalized and uh, kind of kind of isolated for the benefit of the organization as well as from a asset and a local calamity perspective. Now, so there are essentially three, four things which govern here. One is essentially how do you monitor these assets which are running over multiple places. In times of pandemic, we are running short of people, so there was no workforce available at the site. So we actually got into something which is remote surveillance, and we actually deployed sensor-based systems
Mm.
which are actually having a digital twin footprint. So not necessarily we did it
Mm.
all during the pandemic. We had a foresight and we wanted to do this as a genuine and fact-proven model. So we created a digital twin, and then we actually monitored the parameters which are impacting the pipeline in the real time over this digital twin to understand how this really could be mitigated, and if there is any calamity, how could this whole thing can be sectionalized in a way which is non intrusory, which is non invasive, which is non kind of impacting the entire pipeline. So that was one. So basically, this whole thing was driven by the AI, artificial intelligence, and the thing is, the data which was sent from those places to the cloud, to the nearest cloud, and then it was collaborated back somewhere onto the digital twin to understand the impact. Not only covered the real-time calamities, it also over a period of time began to monitor the people who are there at the site in terms of the count, the heavy assets like JCBs, which are rented out at a very heavy price on a daily and an hourly basis. How could they be put to the best use? And then looking back from the management's perspective, the ease of use of this whole data that is encapsulated by the system and the split second decision making. For instance, when this is JCB which is lying idle for 3 hours and hasn't moved, if the data is analyzed at the day end, the whole day is lost. So you actually incur the rent and you couldn't really do a bit about it because the day is gone. Now tomorrow you could actually allocate it elsewhere, but then what happens if it's idle there itself for the whole day? So the thing is, it facilitates decision making on the runtime in the real time environment, and the data is flown back from the site to the place where the decision is really taken, which could be probably miles and miles away, could be sitting in a different
Mm.
city or country for that matter. So that is something that is the need of the hour from an organization's perspective to understand how any data which is collected and collated is analyzed from a decision making perspective.
Right. Because thank you so much. But one thing that grips my imagination all the time, and since I have all of you here, maybe a very simple sounding question. You know, it is said technology is very dynamic, right? But there's a cost to technology. I'm saying this because for what we're discussing today, how does an IT leader deal with scenarios like technology obsolescence or situation obsolescence? Because, for instance, we just spoke about a scenario where suddenly we felt that there's a certain requirement of say, certain technology, and then you overcome that phase. What do I do about that technology that I've deployed then? Have you faced such scenarios and how do you manage this? I mean, it's always, I'm not saying, I'm not talking about a particular technology, I'm not pinpointing a technology, but given the dynamicity of the world of technology, how do I manage, say, situational obsolescence or technology obsolescence? Anybody want to take a go at it? This is purely out of my personal curiosity. How do you manage this?
I'll just take it. So let's look
Yeah.
at the current scenario. Now, as you just talked and spoke about desktop as a service, for that matter, we had given assets to individual employees, and every employee has an asset to himself.
Mm.
Now, it's a real good case of a technology obsolescence. When you have an OPEX driven model, which could actually be working wonders for people who are working from home, and in times to come, you can just use it as a running model without even spending a single penny. But what do you do with it? If the in technology has been invested, I think it could be, you mean you could just say yes, it's a simpler case in case of security again. So the thing is,
Mm.
if you are stuck with the technology, you've got to really find out how to make the best use of the whole thing. We were on Zscaler for umpteen number of years, but the thing is, we went on to a ZPA for private access for the files folders and everything which was there in our office. Not that we envisage that there's going to be a lockdown, but the fact of the matter is, at some point in time, and I would really want to bring this out, is that when I was wanting to invest in this ZPA and a Zscaler kind of a product, there was a heavy kind of a discussion. Why do we need to invest so much? And probably there could be cheaper alternatives which are available. But the fact of the matter is, if you do not invest in a technology which is a good technology, and I would say a technology is good at any point of time. You just in the technological world, the obsolescence is so fast. By the time you really come to an end of a project, the technology might be obsolete. So
Right,
probably in the development space. But the thing is, can you do away with the whole code? The
right.
lines and millions of lines of codes. Look, for instance, the Citibank, they were still on mainframes till I think the last century, probably, if they had not made it obsolete. The fact of the matter is, and HDFC probably and ICICI of the world may be having technological advantage, but does it really need to discard the technology which you are running on? I think if you
Right.
look at mainframes, they are still quite strong in their space for a few years back. So the thing is
Mm.
ki, the technology obsolescence will always be there. I think we got to really make a choice. If we have made use of a technology, we got to stick to it and find the best use of the whole thing.
Right, right, right.
So
So, because,
my take,
yeah, yeah, please, Avinash. No, no, please
my
go ahead.
take on this, yeah. So my take on this is, uh, today we need to look at what is the business outcome we're trying to achieve, because technology keeps on revamping. The cycle time is reducing from years to months, or some of
Mm,
things are
mm,
getting into
mm.
weeks, and we can't simply have a microscopic narrow view of just technology. So it has to be linked to the business outcome, and anything which impacts the flexibility, adaptability, or security of the business outcome has to be looked at and replaced. That's it, and you need to present it that way to the management.
Right. Avinash, I'll tell you one thing. So, because we've had all, like I said, consider we wanted to have a 360 view. The last question that we asked our friends who are listening is come up with a wish list of some of the strategies that they wish or they are currently deploying within their organizations to go for IT cost optimization. And I'm just calling out, and I want you to give your views to this. One, all of you have mentioned phasing out obsolete technologies because that seems to be determined. But that's an easy one out. Many of them, I think Prince spoke about FinOps, right? So a lot of people are saying the right use of DevOps can help you actually optimize your cost. then also exploring areas like managed services, so focusing on your core expertise and then outsourcing it to a service provider. And interestingly, also talking about deploying open source architecture and software in the real-time world. Like I said, this could be true for certain segments of market. Do you feel some, these are some of the strategies which actually can help you manage cost, or because we spoke about technology, but from a strategy perspective, are you aligned to what we've just heard? Prince, what is your view to this? Uh, uh, Prince, I'll request you to unmute yourself, please. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely, interesting and very insightful comments from Vikas and Avinash. I like to look at it from a maybe a little bit more simpler perspective. So when you're talking about cost, you got to look at cost from multiple angles. You can see a cost as it is right now, or you can see a projection for the future, because you add in the elements of risk, the other cost that comes in, and what could potentially go wrong, and you see this ballooning. So you need to make a decision based on a cost view now and a cost view of a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. It's all going to be different. I like that simpler model of Gardner. They used to have a time model where you said, you look at each element and you say, is this something which I'm going to tolerate? Is this something that I'm going to invest in? Is this something that I'm going to migrate? Or is this something which I need to remove, whatever? So that eliminate. If and you categorize this, and from there you start looking at, what is the modernization steps that I'm going to be taking? Because at the end of the day, if it is still delivering value, and if you're still able to milk it to such an extent that I'm going to be able to extract further value, you retain it, you tolerate this. But if you find that if something does go wrong and I'm not able to recover from it, then what do I do? I mean, we had a similar discussion when we were looking at, we decided to standardize in one technology stack. We decided to standardize on Wintel. But then we decided that we also understood that we need to have a risk mitigation, because and the risk mitigation proved to be useful, because when we did have a malware attack, it was only Wintel that was attacked, but the Linux stack was safe. So suddenly there was a case that, what do we go over Linux? And it just, and there is no black and white. It depends on your context, your risk appetite,
Right.
you're in, and what actually adds value to the business, and what the decisions you make according to all these factors.
So, Prince, I mean, these discussions could go on, but I'd probably like to conclude today's discussion, and I'll take a cue from Avinash's point around, we spoke about how responsible we are in terms of IT spend or a digital roadmap on our carbon footprint. Akin to that, not exactly only confined to ESG, but also if I'd like to tie your, the conclusive remarks on, what are some of the key ingredients, to make your future workplace inclusive, secure, and sustainable. Because I think much is said about security, a lot is said about anytime, anywhere. But the software elements about making work sustainable and inclusive are the plans for tomorrow. What is your view, and what would you like? How would you like to conclude that? I'll probably ask the same question to Prince and Vikas after this.
Okay, so going ahead, I would like to simplify, since you're talking about integrated workspace here. I have a concept of, say, zero integrated workspace, the zero integrate maturity model. By that, what I mean is, first, security. So you need to have a zero trust in place. So where are you that in terms of your maturity model there? You need to have a zero touch, wherein you don't have any physical touch. How do you remotely monitor and update your systems? You need to have a zero storage, where you have cloud data, web PCs kind of environment. You don't have storage locally, it is controlled. You have zero passwords like biometrics and SSO cloud controls. A zero contact, a remote supports. You don't have to have a physical person coming across. So your anywhere workplace works. Zero carbon because of sustainability. And zero endpoint, if you literally see, you can today migrate from slowly it will come to your smartwatch also. You can start computing. They're getting so powerful. So if you map yourself on this zero maturity model, if as you reach maturity, you're done it. That's the only belief.
Right, right. It's a state of nirvana that you're speaking about. But I love some of the cues. Vikas, your views to this.
Some of these spoken by Avinash is it's really it's a utopia basically where we would reach. You can actually even without a device in front of you, you can have probably laser-driven machines coming up with with some kind of a screen which enables you to project your views there and people to
Right,
see. I'm sure things are not very far off. So
right,
sustainability is something that is going to drive this whole thing. And one of the steps that we actually adopted as a part of sustainability was to move people-based supervision to technology-based supervision, and which actually has rewarded in terms of direct cost reductions besides quality improvements, sustainability, people staying there, and I mean, zero defects, zero reworks. So these are the things which we actually have adopted. And I think those are things that are going to be driving the whole thing. Word over carbon footprint 2050, everybody is looking having to have some kind of a targets for themselves, and sustainability is really going to be driving this whole thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll probably put a spin to it just to give a different flavor to this, Prince, before we conclude. I spoke about, secure, sustainable, inclusive workspace, right? When we traditionally, when we hear about inclusive work scenarios, typically the charter is towards the HR leader, right? Now, how can a tech leader like you help an organization achieve that? I mean, may not be a straight question, but
No.
I would love to get your view.
It's a lovely question. I love this question. You know why? Right now, we are IT leaders, and as a CIO, my remit is supposed to be technology. But if
Right.
you, if and I believe this is going to be the experience of most CIOs, because you're doing less technology now. You're sitting in more of customer meeting. You're sitting in more of logistics planning, production, supply chain, and you are spending a hell of a lot of time there. So you are digitizing. You're driving digitization in finance, in supply chain, in marketing, in HR, you name it. So you see, you're already so ingrained into the rest of it in a different way. I would say this wasn't the case maybe 4 or 5 years back, but right now you're at that space where you have such an influence over so many of these aspects. So the one area that I feel and I believe that I'm making a difference, or we can make a difference in evangelizing, in ensuring that their quality of life is better by the the utilization of tool sets and digital tools, etc., which means that the whole development of that individual who's in a functional role to be a better digital citizen is really enhanced. And to me,
Right.
that's like a contribution saying that, this is going to make a difference to you, and it's going to make a difference to this organization as well in the long run. And all of these philosophies, all of these principles will all add up. At the end of the day, sustainability is not a job, it's not somebody's responsibility, it's a culture change. So
Absolutely.
to me, this is one dimension which we are impacting that culture. So you're actually bringing that in.
And do you see, I open this to Vikas, Avinash, and to you, Prince. Do you see more collaboration with CHROs and CIOs like you in the future? And is that already happening?
Absolutely right. Primarily, the role has really changed. Rather, we have become the chief change managers or risk managers. So, if you are the person who really know where the change is happening, you're the first person to know in an organization
Right,
where the change is
right,
happening, and you are responsible to execute the change if something is brought in. So, you have to really understand the HR culture, your technology, your processes, and business. So you are the guy who need to understand this and bring out the change management. Secondly, risk management. You need to look at and project what are the risks which are happening, and you need to come up and work out the solution, because without IT, nothing works, and risks are all related back to IT. So these
right.
are the two roles which are majorly being functioned as of.
I
No,
would
I
agree
can
with
go on. Vikas, yes, please. Yeah.
yes, I would agree with what Avinash and Prince said. I think it has become IT has become like a DNA, and it is ingrained. It's just getting ingrained with time passing by into every function. So be it marketing, or be it CHRO, or I mean the human resource, or the process, and everywhere it is just going to get a, it's just becoming a thread which is sewing all the pieces of an organization, all the functions of an organization, and that is how this whole organization is going to move with the backbone of the IT.
I mean, you know what, Vikas? I was just thinking, Avinash Prince. Before the start of the conversation, I was wondering to myself, how can this conversation be enjoyable and relevant even now? But after this 45 minutes, I've discovered there's a lot to still work around. It's like you said, it's a cultural shift that we're speaking about. Technology has a key role, and as a techno-functional consultant like you know, you are inseeped in so many functional organizations. I think eh, the journey becomes even more ingrained and enjoyable as we go forward. Uh, Great insights. Thank you so much. Generally mean that. Always a pleasure having all of you. Avinash, Vikas, Prince, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Your
me. Great
pleasure.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
having us here.